Hello everyone, my name is Akir and thank you very much for joining me. So today we're going to work with a little GUI program that is going to represent two bouncing balls on the screen, and we'll use our Java skills to manifest these bouncing balls on the screen and see how it all works graphically. So the compiler I chose to work with is Eclipse, but you can choose any compiler that you like. I opened Eclipse, and right now I'm going to, if you don't have that, obviously you don't have that, so you need to create a new project. I called mine Bouncing Balls. One tip for you is, maybe you already know that, but I always think it's very good for a programmer to be organized. That's very important. So if one day you want to come back to some examples that you wrote, maybe you wrote some plan which does something, and you don't want to rewrite everything that you do from fresh. You can just go and find what you wrote very easily. So, in order to create this program, well, let me just show you first of all what it does. So, in Eclipse, I press on the play, and then it goes like this, and you see two bouncing balls on the screen. Now, whenever those bouncing balls are going to touch each other, the color of the background is going to change. Okay, so first of all, what you have here is those two balls moving on the screen every time it gets the new position of each ball. Initially, I set them to be exactly put at the same location. You see here they bump into each other, so the color of the background is changed. Initially, I set them to be on the same spot, but on the exact opposite direction, moving on exactly the opposite direction. So they're moving on the screen, and they're not supposed to go over these limits of the background. And we'll see how to make that. Okay, so first of all, what you need to do is to find something that is going to help you writing your program and writing some graphics designed classes. There is a library out there on the internet which is called StdDraw, which is a very good and useful library to have when you want to write some graphic, when you want to manifest some graphics onto your program. You don't have to use StdDraw. This is just one method out of many possibilities and opportunities to develop graphic libraries. But this is something that I recommend to begin with, at least, because it's very simple to use, as you know, I'll now show you. So where you find this library? Well, I'll put it in this description down below, but if you want, you can also just simply Google search it, StdDraw and Java, and then I will get into the first link. It's from the Princeton University. And over here you see what this class contains, okay? But that's not actually the file, that's actually the API of the class. You can see all the different methods here, like for example set scale, you change the size of the object, clear, you have get pen radius, and you can change the stroke sizes, for example, pen sizes, set in different fonts, drawing a line on the screen, points, circles, rectangle, polygons, whatever you want. We'll go back one time and I'll try the next link because I think this link should have, oh, it's also from Princeton University. And in here you'll find the actual class. So if you want to copy it to your project, you just start a new class and you copy all that. It's a long library, so you can just press Ctrl A to copy everything onto your project, like I did here. So if I open StdDraw, everything that you just saw on the browser will show up here. And this is a ready to use library, so you can use it with your project. It's very versatile, very good to use, very user friendly. So let's get on with the program and see how I made it. So you got the package of, I created a package called Bouncing Balls, and these are all the imports that we need. This is the class bouncing balls, and I straight away created everything on the main. I have the most of the functionality happening through the main method, and another method that I wrote here. This method basically creates a random color. So whenever you run this method, basically, it would use the random object. It will create a random object and will apply to these variables R, G, and B, which I mentioned here, would apply the values, a random value between 0 and 255. So basically it will do the same thing for each variable. So eventually you'll get 3 variables with 3 values between 0 and 255. And with that you can create a color. So when you create a color, when you create a random color especially, you can specify the RGB colors values that you want to give that color. So it ranges from 0 to 255. 0 it's completely off, so it's black basically, and 255 for R, G, and B would give you white. Okay, if you just put 255 with R and the rest of them are going to be 0, that would be a solid red color, for example. So we'll get different values. So this is how we mix the colors. So this is what this method will do. It will bring back, it will return a new color object to a method to a method called this method. So let's go to the main and see how the rest of the things are working. One of the first things that you need to do when you're working with StdDraw is to set your scales. For example, I chose to scale it from negative 1.0 to 1. And this is the whole scale. So whatever you saw on the screen, so when you saw on the screen this whole area is basically scaling from, so if this is, we're talking about the X scale, so from here to the edge, from edge to edge, it's from negative 1, to 1. So basically, if you want exactly the middle, that would be 0, okay? So it's like really tiny just differences when you're using this kind of a small scale. And the same goes for Y, for the Y axis. The scale is also the same, okay? And I'm generating the new color to be set initially. And then we will create the movement part. So, sorry, the X and Y position, which are Rx and Ry. This is the X and Y position of the first ball. And this is the position, the movement, actually. This is the variables that are in charge of the movement. So, for example, every time that would go in a loop. When you're dealing with something graphics that moves on the screen, it's basically, if you imagine a loop that is always going. There's an infinite loop that actually goes, and every time, let's say the ball is here, every time it's moving it a little by little. So it moves like that. So if you say, for example, your ball is on the x coordinate, let's say 10, and you want to apply that move to the x coordinate to add 1 each, so that would be 10, 11, 12, and then when you repeating this motion, it would look like there is animation on the screen, like the ball is moving every time by 1, okay? So in here, the level of increase is basically towards, to the x coordinate would be 0.015, and to the y coordinate 0.023. So basically that would give like a diagonal move that will later on will apply to the ball's position themselves. And this is for the second ball, and both x, y, this is the positions that it starts. They start in exactly the same position, but they have different movements, so they're going to move on different directions. Why? Because every time this value would be added to the x, and this value would be added to the y, and this value would be added to the x of the second one, and this value would be added to the y of the second ball. So that is negative, so it's a different direction. So it's like basically subtracting the direction of the y and subtracting the direction of the x, and this is adding to the direction of the x and y to the position. Okay, and this is the size. Every ball that we are creating, we have two balls, so they're both having this size. And this is the infinite loops that I was talking about. This is a graphically designed interface, and you have movements all the time. So we have an infinite loops that goes on and on and on. Basically, we set the rate of it in here with this command, but we'll come back to that later. We say here that we want the rate to be 20, so every 20 milliseconds, I think. Okay, we come back to this loop. What we do here is every time that the loop runs, every iteration of the loop, we are setting the color of the color object. You see, the color object initially it's made to be 100, 100, 100. Okay, so it's like a gray color, and this is the color of it. And then in here basically we are setting the pen. The pen is like, imagine like a brush that you have like a painting palette, and you're putting your brush sampling a color. So you're taking a color of gray and you're having your brush, and then you can create things. Then you can draw, for example, in here we draw a square. So we gave x and y and the size of the square. Okay, when you mention in a square, it's symmetrical. So basically it starts from 0, 0, and then the size of 1, which is in our scale is quite a lot. Okay, it takes up almost the entire screen. Okay, and this is for the walls collision. What happens when the balls are hitting the walls? So whenever it hits, basically we set it down here. Whenever it goes to the left side of the screen, and whenever it goes to the right side of the screen. So basically in here, what we do is we are taking the x coordinate. Okay, the x coordinate, the one who moves like that, right to left, and we basically calculating it with the directions that it goes together with the size of the ball. So we're taking the size of the ball, we're adding it to it together with the movement, the future movement it's going to make, and we calculate that together with that movement that it's about to make. It hasn't made yet, and the size of the ball. If it's going to be going to the edge of the screen, beyond the edge of the screen. So if we subtract basically, let's say 0.015 from the x coordinate, if then it's going to be out of the square that you see on the screen, of the limits, of the borders. And if so, or we have the other case, if it happens on the right side, then what we want to do is we want to change the direction. So you see here when it's basically touching this sides, one of the x's, basically the direction is flipping to be the opposite direction. And how do we do that? We go to the Vx, which is in charge of the movement of the x coordinate, and we change it to be negative. And if it was negative, we'll change it to be positive. How? Because if this is negative, this is double negative, so it turns to be positive. The same goes to I. This is how we change the direction. And the same goes to the other ball too. And another thing we need to do is to check the ball's collision. So this is I just calculated the same thing with the position of the first ball and the second ball together, and I added the size of the ball to see exactly when they are touching, basically with the same coordinates, when the coordinates are very, very close to each other. And then again, change the direction in the same fashion that we did before, same ways that we did before. And whenever that happens too, whenever there is a ball collision, we are generating a new color. So we call the random color method here. generated a new color. It brought us back, it returned us a color object, and we put this color object in C. And then, since we're looping and iterating, you see that the next things on the next iterations that happens very, very fast, the pen color would be C, and then we'll create the square of the screen again. Therefore, now the color is different to something random, and then we draw it again on the screen. We draw that square again on the screen. What else do we have? Okay, this is the movements. This is when we apply the movements. So every time we need to, okay, we change something with the direction, we change something with the movement, or maybe we didn't change anything at all. Maybe every time we need to update the movement, add the movement to the X position and the Y position. So we add it to them, and every time we're basically going through that loop again and again and again. So every time it will increase with the x-axis or decrease with the x-axis depending on the direction, and as well, and we do the same with the y, and also for the second ball. Okay, so in here we're drawing the balls on the screen. Every time it happens very, very fast with every iteration. Every time we're drawing the balls again and again with the new positions after we calculated them and added the movement to them. We draw them again on the screen. This is the first ball, and this is the second ball. We're setting the colors of them again to be black. Before we draw something, we want to pick the color. Okay, like we want to sample the color that we want to draw with. And this is as all we have already saw before. This is tells us that it's going to show on the screen. This method basically also takes no argument if you want, but in this case we have to set the pace to something. So I set it to be 20. So every 20, I think, milliseconds there is this loop iteration, this update, and that's it. And yeah, and let's just run it again, and we see that every time it chooses a new color, and every time that they touch each other, it changes the background color. That's the program, and I'll leave the link to the StdDraw in the description below. And if you have any questions, put a comment down below. And if you like the video, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe maybe. Yeah, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much for watching.